We are poisoning our society. We're poisoning our kids, and we're letting it happen. The powers that control this country.
Which is, I think, big pharma.
They're the largest advertiser in mass media. Modern medicine is hijacked by 3 modalities: chemical, a drug, some kind of electrical stimulation, implant, or surgery. That's it. There's nothing else. Till this came along, no chemical, and we can get people out of a stressful, chronic stress situation, chronic anxiety stress, and lower it measurably. This is award Nobel Prize winning science. Within 20 minutes, you see a sad brain become a happy brain, bro. 16 years and $25 million in R&D to get this to this place. And the world's clamoring for drug-free solutions.
If I put on that patch, am I going to feel the difference?
So the most reliable measurement of longevity in adults is that means you're going to live longer. The whole world is chasing AI, right? What we're harnessing is OI, original intelligence, that we're born with.
Aren't you worried about getting whacked? Because if you really do that, pharmaceuticals, trillions of dollars, someone's going to send a black helicopter.
I'm going to say something that maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to say it anyways.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Today's guest didn't just challenge Big Pharma. He built something that could damn near replace it. When his mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the early 80s, a young boy named Jay watched traditional medicine fail the person he loved most, and that heartbreak lit a fire that would define his life's mission. Years later, after making nearly $100 million in the dot-com boom, he dumped everything back into a singular question. What if we could heal the body by signaling the brain through the skin without drugs, chemicals, or side effects? Today, that vision is a reality. His company, Super Patch, is disrupting healthcare worldwide with a patented neurotech called vibrotactile trigger technology. It's science-backed, non-invasive, and used by millions to enhance sleep, focus, pain relief, strength, agility, mental clarity, and the list goes on. Welcome, Jay.
Pleasure to be here, Brad.
Jay Dhaliwal, folks. If you guys want to follow him, you can follow him at Superpatch Co. on most of the social medias, superpatch.com. So, Jay, now, obviously, I've been talking to you previously about all of these patches. And if you guys were here, you'd see that they're just little sticky squares, right? No drugs, nothing on them, just a certain texture to them.
Yeah.
And that texture is telling our skin what?
Well, I think we all know that our brain communicates with our body, and our body communicates with our brain. So when we put that texture, it's like Braille. You know, blind people read with their fingertips. So we're putting a special kind of Braille that we call VTT against our skin. Our skin has ion channels, these little transducers that send nervous signals to our mind. What we've decoded over the last 15 years are very specific neurocodes that help manage our physiological function, whether it's pain management, sleep, or stress. So when we put that sticker, as we call it, with those ridges are triggering a response in our skin that's communicating with our body, with our brain, and helping it bring it to homeostasis, which is just another word for balance.
So how did you discover this?
Well, it's, you know, as you're right. I mean, I woke up at the age of 38, pretty much what anybody would consider having achieved the American dream. Been married 30 years now, beautiful kids. My mom is still alive. She got diagnosed with MS in 83. She's supposed to live 6 years, but she's still alive. And my dad, just an amazing human being. And when I put all those check marks beside my life, what I found was that having taken care of my mom for the better part of 25 years at that point, and taken her to all the specialists, Brad, over a dozen countries, hundreds of places, where I say, you know what, hey, here's a specialist that deals with MS. Here's a specialist that deals with muscle atrophy. Never finding that answer. I just started digging into what is that mind-body connection? Because with MS, that's what happens. Your mind can't control your body. And when I started asking those questions to the smartest people in the room, they couldn't tell me. Think about it. They've been studying things like MS and neurodegenerative diseases for a long time, but they can't quantify the signal from the brain to the body. They don't know what it is. And as an engineer, as a software engineer, we live in the code, right? If the code's not getting through, there's a glitch. What's that glitch? And they're like, well, Jay, you know, the body's not software. I'm like, well, you don't know if it is or isn't. You certainly don't know what's wrong with my mom because you haven't been able to help her. And the conclusion that I came through after years of research was that everybody agrees, obviously the mind regulates the body. The way the mind does it is through vibrations, through frequencies in our mind, which form these complex neural networks that regulate pain, sleep, stress, mobility. So I've written algorithmic software that helps me deduce EEGs, which are brainwave sets. So there's a large database of 250,000 people called the Loretta database, which is just brain sets from all over the world, which is the normative database for analyzing neurofunction. So I got this database. It's a nonprofit. It's great that they make it available for anybody doing research. But then I proceeded to write my own analysis software to actually diagnose and analyze that data. It's complex, but it's allowed me to, just like, the Hubble telescope looks outward in space, this software looks into the mind. And I've been able to deduce the different networks that affect our physiology. And then the patch is a delivery mechanism that connects the mind to the body. It helps restore those programs that regulate our body. So whether it's pain or sleep or stress, all the different things we've talked about, we can do it through physics, not chemistry. Modern medicine is stuck on chemistry. But the reality is we're all vibrational. Everything in our body is vibrational. That's how our mind communicates with our body. It isn't through chemistry. It's through vibration. It's through electrical signals. Electrical signals are just frequencies. And once we figure that out, we can solve almost any problem in the world in time.
Yeah, well, you're not selling me on it because I already believe it. Like I try to tell people. And it's that simple too.
It is that simple.
People think they try to complicate it, because it's complicating for your average brain, and it's like, well, who created us? Like that shows me where we were created. We didn't just come out of some
soup
mud pile.
No chance.
and even if we did, I ask, okay, so let me ask you a question. At what point what happened so that little amoeba or whatever it was,
there's no chance,
then became what, a fish? Because there was only one. It didn't turn into 75 different kinds of fish, and there's hundreds, thousands of kinds of fish. Yeah. And then those fish eventually walked out of water and then grew legs, and then they grew feet, and then one turned into a giraffe, and one turned into a rhinoceros, and one turned into a bumblebee. Like, come on, like,
Brad, listen,
it's not possible.
There's an eminent biologist, and I forget his name, and he just presented this at a leading biology ethics conference. And he said, listen, he goes, for life to spring out of non-life particles, the permutations and combinations for the length of time that it would take for that to happen is longer than the universe has been around. Number one. So he goes, so the probability of it happening are next to zero. That's the first thing. He goes, there's no chance that could happen. Second thing, he goes, we have never discovered or found a single, and that's just to become a single cell organism. We've never found anything that went from a single cell organism to a 2-cell organism. He goes, how did we become a 1 trillion cell organism? And the thing that debunks all of it is the thing that separates us from everything else, which is our consciousness. Evolution fails at consciousness. It can't describe us. The thing that makes us us, the real defining thing that makes us human as beings of spirit and light, evolution can't explain. And so they're like, oh, give us one big miracle of the Big Bang and we'll explain the rest. I go, no, it doesn't work that way. You can't explain life. Life isn't an accident. That's what I believe.
That's what I believe.
And the science is absolutely backing us now, saying, you know what? If we dig into this a little bit deeper, it doesn't make any sense. I believe the entire scientific conversation got hijacked by this guy named Darwin. And we've gone down this rabbit hole of trying to prove something that cannot be proved. Right? And then they try to bring connections that don't exist. Where's the missing link? We've only been looking for it for a long time. It doesn't exist. What happened to the Denisovans? A different species. They died off. Things happen. Things become extinct. So I don't buy into the general narrative. And having studied where modern health and modern medicine is, it's archaic. It's old. Modern medicine, especially in the Western world, is designed on an old paradigm of what? Infectious diseases, smallpox, polio. So we got really good at making vaccines and antibiotics, but we've wiped those out. They're not killing us anymore. What's tormenting us? Pains, aches, fatigue, poor sleep. So these chronic things have happened, right? The only solution we still have is a bloody pill because that's all we make.
Or get rid of the shit that's causing them, which is iPhones and shit we're not willing to get rid of.
That's a whole different conversation, man, about the electrical EMF poison that's in the universe, right? I mean,
even a microwave.
All of it.
That's another thing. Like, who invented that shit?
If you dig deep enough, you're not going to get good answers. So,
well, the answers that make most sense is, well, that's alien technology they got from, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, again, now we're talking about aliens. And pretty soon people are like, man, that's all stupid. Well, again, you ever heard of the flat earth theory? Well, dude, when you look at some of the questions those guys pose, I go, that is a good question. But of course, we don't live on a flat earth. Well, why is that so crazy to believe if we can believe, there was a burning bush and somebody talked to Moses? And if you can believe anything, you can believe anything, is my point.
100%.
Well, scientifically speaking, we are frequencies.
100%.
We are simply a bundle of vibrational frequencies. And so that can be proven, and it has been proven
many times.
So this isn't a spiritual thing.
No,
this is a scientific thing.
Very much scientific. Brad, you hit it on the head. Like 1939, two of the smartest guys in the room, this guy named Dr. Rabin, Dr. Milburn at Columbia University, published a paper. It was actually posted in the New York Post, 1939, way before you and I came along, this mudball. And they proved that every single cell in our body was receiving and transmitting a signal. So basically, we're antennas. 1939, man. This isn't new. 6 years later, they made the MRI and won the Nobel Prize. So we're not talking about things that don't exist in science. This is award Nobel Prize winning science. When I started doing my research in 2009, in 2010, these two doctors out of California, Dr. Papatupian especially, we always knew the skin was talking to the brain, but we didn't know how. He discovers these two ion channels, which are just transducers and proteins, that when you touch the skin, they generate an electrical signal. Till that point, we didn't know what was doing it. We knew it was doing it. So the serendipity of my life is that these people are doing all this amazing research, but they're not looking to solve a problem. My goal in doing all of this was to help my mom with her MS. That was it. And so these guys who discovered those ion channels that send the signal from the skin to the brain, call it piezo 1, piezo, these are transducers, they eventually win the Nobel Prize in 2021 in physiology and medicine. People go, this is woo-woo science. I go, no, you haven't read the science. I read 50,000 research papers and 500 textbooks. This didn't come out of a Cracker Jack box. This is 16 years and $25 million in R&D to get this to this place. And the world's clamoring for drug-free solutions, Brad.
Well, why do you think, like, for example, we get goosebumps?
It's a response to input coming into our senses.
That's right.
And the body's responding like this.
Yeah, but there's a purpose for everything. It's
Sure.
like, I didn't realize that was to do that. And it goes back to where, back when we were just trying to have survival.
Yeah.
Some of these instincts like fear, they no longer serve us the same way because of obviously evolution and creature comforts. So I like to say the goosebumps are caused when the polyunsaturated hydrocarbons flow through the medulla oblongata and increase the blood flow to the erector pili.
There you go.
The question is why? Well, again, that's the question. So when it's at the end of the day figured out, someone will be like, oh, that's why. So it just sounds like you've figured out that, hey, you don't need drugs. You need your skin to feel something specific.
Yeah. So we all accept that blind people read Braille with their fingertips.
Yes.
Right? Been around 200 years.
Well, they had to learn that, though.
Hold on.
They didn't just do this and read.
I understand that. But they didn't learn the mechanism of the science of the skin transmitting the information to the brain.
No.
Right? Something went from that fingertip up their arm into the spinal nerve, into their brain.
You don't need that.
And the brain says, oh, that's a letter. Oh, that's a word. But the signal had to get from here to here.
Yeah, or anywhere. There's other parts of the skin that transmits.
So Braille is working with the prefrontal cortex, which is learn knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. But we didn't learn pain. We didn't learn sleep. We didn't learn mobility, pre-programmed genetic programming. And that doesn't operate the conscious level. That's not something we learn. That's operating the autonomic system. Those are pre-programmed settings in us. And that's the system we're speaking to. So it doesn't speak English, man. It speaks frequency. And if we can send the right frequency through our skin, if Braille works, that means all that matters is what you're writing on the skin. So we've developed our own language of communicating with our autonomic system. Why is it radical? Because no one's done it before. But once upon a time, somebody made the first thing. Just happens to be that we did this. Why? Because we were focused on a solution, not academia. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to solve any other thing than, hey, do we have alternative solutions to a pill?
But why? Why are you so eager to do that?
Because I relied on modern medicine to help my mom for 25 years without any results. And they kept telling me, well, that's not how this works. And I asked them, well, tell me how it works. And then they don't know. What they won't admit is they don't know. And they'll sooner tell you it's not possible than to say we don't know and we're going to try a different approach. Modern medicine is hijacked by 3 modalities: chemical, a drug, some kind of electrical stimulation, implant, or surgery. That's it. There's nothing else. So,
well, yet,
till this came along. And what we're doing is we're saying, hey, there's an alternative here. But the healthcare system, and I don't blame doctors or anybody else, that's what they've been taught. There's no innovation in old books. 30 years ago, if you read a neurology textbook, and I've read them, they said that the brain could not repair itself, that it was permanent brain damage. Wow. You read a textbook now, it's like, oh, neuroplasticity allows you to recover and repair broken neurology. Really? So how are they possibly going to invent or solve new problems reading old textbooks? There's dogma. There's ideology that's not designed to look for answers where none exist. That's where innovators come in place. That's where you got to take risks. 16 years, $25 million. I didn't go out there saying, hey, believe in me. I said, I think I can solve this.
Aren't you glad you had $25 million?
Absolutely.
What if you didn't? Imagine trying to explain to investors how this works.
You raised a great question. People say, well, Jay, how come you didn't raise money and why did you risk your own fortune? I go, no one's going to bet on me because what I'm proposing is so radical.
Not only that, dude, it says you had 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, gambling 25, you still got 75. You weren't risking
actually
everything.
A little bit more than 100, but that's beside the point, right?
I mean,
hundreds at 29.
People don't understand though. Like if I have 100, I'll risk 40, 50. Would you have risked it all?
Would I have risked it all for my mom? Yeah.
Well, she was already good.
No, she wasn't happy. I wasn't happy.
Like Elon Musk, when he got paid from PayPal,
yeah,
he was sleeping on couches. He basically bet it all. Yeah. Like, dude, that's balls.
Sure.
If I got 100, I'll throw 25. Worst case scenario, I lose it. Now I still got 75. Ain't nothing wrong with 75.
No, there's nothing wrong with 75, but I tell you, most people won't even do that.
No. Right. And they wouldn't.
And the 25 is where it ended. I had no idea where it was going to end. It could have been the whole 100.
Yeah.
Right.
You were just willing.
We're willing to do it. And
when did you first discover it? And do you have scientists in places?
No, listen, dude, I couldn't get anyone to go along and say, hey, listen, I reached out to some of the preeminent scientists where I live in Toronto. University of Toronto is one of the leading universities in the world. They're like, hey, you know what, Jay? Stick to software, dude. I'm a software engineer by education. They're like, this doesn't work this way. So when you're proposing something that's so out of scope, forget about investment. You can't even get collaborators because they don't want to risk their reputation. Right? So it becomes a solitary journey where you believe that, you know what, it has to be solvable. Because if you believe that the mind controls the body, then all you got to figure out is how does it do it?
Mind does control the body.
Yeah.
We know this.
Okay. How?
Well, that's the miracle. But to me, it's like, we know that's the case.
Right.
Because like this, that ain't the body doing that. No. That's me doing that.
Absolutely.
That's the mind.
So that's the question. Because my mom couldn't do that anymore. She couldn't do this. And my question was, what's happening to her desire, her conscious
Where's it breaking down?
Where's it breaking down? They said, why do you want to know that? I go, well, I'm an engineer. I can maybe build a bridge over the broken part. They're like, well, it doesn't work that way. I go, well, the way you're proposing doesn't work either. So what's wrong with a new idea?
Yeah, and they wouldn't admit that they don't know.
They'll never admit they don't know. Yeah,
because like you look at a disease like that, or even that one that Stephen Hawkins had. Yeah. What was that?
I don't know. Was it ALS? I don't think it was ALS.
ALS.
Terrible.
Well, that's the worst